She sat back, eyes fixed on the floor, voice trembling, and asked a question that still echoes. Can you imagine what it's like being in a group with Beyoncé? For a moment, the room went silent. Kelly Rowland's words didn't sound like envy. They sounded like survival. It was the kind of confession that made even the interviewer hesitate, unsure if they were allowed to step into the raw, unguarded space she had just opened. Fans had always suspected cracks beneath the flawless image of Destiny's Child, but no one expected Kelly herself to describe the invisible war playing out inside her head. She admitted she sometimes couldn't wear certain clothes, couldn't walk into a room without hearing an inner voice saying she wasn't good enough. The world saw the glamorous stage lights. Kelly saw the shadows, and that's when whispers of long hidden pain turned into a story she could no longer silence. Her admission felt like a bombshell, and the shockwaves spread quickly. For years, people speculated about Kelly's complicated personal life, but she rarely addressed it. Rumors swirled about hidden struggles, a strained friendship with Beyoncé, even an alleged domestic relationship she once tried to bury. Some fans whispered about an unspoken jealousy that poisoned her confidence, others about secrets she carried for decades. But nothing prepared them for the theory that exploded online, a scandalous claim suggesting her son's father wasn't her husband, but Jay-Z himself. Whether born of truth, misinterpretation, or pure rumor, it was enough to send Hollywood into overdrive. And now, with Kelly finally speaking, it felt like the answers might be closer than ever. Kelly Rowland's story didn't begin with fame. It began with escape. Born on February 11, 1981, in Atlanta, Georgia, her earliest memories were shaped by the sound of doors slamming and the quiet resilience of her mother, Doris. Her father battled addictions and personal demons that eventually tore their family apart. When Doris walked away, she wasn't just leaving a man, she was choosing survival. Mother and daughter moved to Houston, where Kelly found not just a new home, but a new family. In Beyoncé's household, Tina Knowles became the second mother who steadied her, who gave her a roof, meals, and the warmth she longed for. But beneath that safety, Kelly carried a secret hunger. Music wasn't just a dream, it was her lifeline. By the early 1990s, she and Beyoncé joined a small girl group called Girls' Time. They were just kids with oversized ambition, auditioning for shows, chasing lights they didn't yet understand. They lost on Star Search, got dropped from labels, and were told more than once that their dreams were impossible. But then Matthew Knowles stepped in. Beyoncé's father became their manager, determined to mold the girls into a force the industry couldn't ignore. By 1997, Columbia Records signed them, and Destiny's Child was born. Their first big break came with a soundtrack song for Men in Black. But the Rowland explosion arrived with No, 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 and their next album. By the time the writings on the wall dropped, with hits like Bills, 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 and Say My Name, the world had crowned them icons. 2 Grammys cemented their place in history. Kelly was no longer the girl struggling to find her reflection in the shadow of her father's absence. She was part of the biggest girl group in the world. But inside, something was unraveling. The group's success was unstoppable, but Kelly's own identity began to blur. Changes in the lineup brought tension. Headlines praised Beyoncé as the breakout star, while Kelly was often described as the other one. At first, she brushed it off. But behind closed doors, the comparisons cut deeper than she let on. Every time she saw Beyoncé's meteoric rise, the voice inside whispered, "You'll never measure up." It was the beginning of a silent struggle that would follow her for years. When the group disbanded, Kelly tried to carve her own path. Her duet with Nelly, Dilemma, soared to #1, and for a moment, it looked like she had found her footing. But the pressure to match Beyoncé's solo dominance was relentless. Kelly's music did well, but it didn't dominate charts in the same way. In private, she admitted she felt stuck, proud of her best friend's success, but unsure of her own place in the world. That inner conflict would spill out years later in a song so raw, it left her in tears in the recording booth. But before that revelation, Kelly's personal life brought new wounds. For 30 years, she didn't see her father. She carried the abandonment like an invisible scar. Losing her mother in 2014 only deepened the ache, until motherhood finally gave her the courage to reach out. With Jay-Z's support, she met with her father again. Hours of conversation dissolved decades of silence. For the first time, she allowed herself to forgive. But it wasn't just her father she was forgiving. It was the insecure, 7-year-old inside her. The one who never felt good enough. The one who, even on the biggest stages in the world, still heard the echoes of pain. Yet just as Kelly was rebuilding, rumors came roaring back louder than ever. Whispers online that her son Titan resembled Jay-Z more than her husband. When fans replayed clips of Jay-Z greeting her at a film premiere, his sudden spark of recognition, the way his face lit up, they read it as evidence. Blogs lit up with comparisons, side-by-side photos of Titan and Jay-Z. Some even went so far as to call her Becky number 2, dragging her into the same cheating rumors that once haunted Beyoncé. The whispers didn't fade. They grew. But what came next blindsided even her most loyal supporters. The speculation surrounding Kelly's son Titan wasn't just gossip. It became an obsession. Every smile, every side profile, every candid photo was dissected, magnified, and compared. Fans swore they saw Jay-Z's jawline, his eyes, even his expressions mirrored in the boy. Some called it undeniable. Others insisted it was pure projection, pointing to Titan's striking resemblance to his actual father when shown old family photos. But the damage was done. The rumor had escaped the blogs and crept into mainstream conversation, forcing Kelly into a spotlight she never asked for. For a woman already battling the weight of comparison and insecurity, this theory wasn't just cruel, it was dangerous. The whispers became louder when people revisited her music, especially her haunting track, Dirty Laundry. The song was more than a ballad. It was a confession. Kelly had poured her truth into the lyrics, revealing years of abuse, manipulation, and isolation. She admitted she once felt overshadowed by Beyoncé, even jealous of her success. Though the love between them never disappeared, it was the rawest Kelly had ever been with the public, and recording it nearly broke her. She wept in the studio, unable to finish takes, reliving the trauma until her voice cracked under its weight. Critics called it her most powerful work, a declaration that she was more than Beyoncé's friend, more than the girl group's other member. For once, she wasn't singing for the charts. She was singing for survival. But fans didn't just hear the pain. They connected dots. The abuse she described sparked debates about who the unnamed man in her life really was. Fingers were pointed, denials were issued, and even her ex-fiancé took to Twitter to defend himself. For Kelly, what was meant to be healing instead reopened wounds. And then came another revelation. Her own father's absence wasn't the only betrayal she carried. Behind the curtain of fame, darker truths were slowly seeping out. In 2019, Matthew Knowles, Beyoncé's father and Destiny's Child's former manager, made a shocking claim. He revealed that during their teenage years on tour, Kelly and Beyoncé were harassed by members of the R&B group Jagged Edge. The girls were only 16, still minors, and traveling the world under the relentless eye of the industry. According to Matthew, he received a panic call from the girls on the tour bus, describing the inappropriate behavior. His response was swift and controversial. He had the men removed immediately, no matter the fallout. But while he felt he had done the right thing, his admission decades later painted a devastating picture of what Kelly endured at such a young age. Fame wasn't a shield. It was exposure. That revelation cast new shadows over Destiny's Child. Fans began to question how much the girls had been forced to hide, how much pain they carried while the world only saw matching outfits and synchronized dance moves. And while neither Beyoncé, Kelly, nor the accused men from Jagged Edge ever publicly addressed Matthew's claims, the silence was almost as loud as the confession itself. What else had been buried? What other truths had the industry chosen to ignore? Kelly's career, meanwhile, was still caught between triumphs and controversies. A simple congratulatory comment she left on Chris Brown's Instagram spiraled into outrage. Fans accused her of supporting colorism after his lyrics about good hair surfaced. Kelly quickly clarified she hadn't known about the lyrics at the time, insisting she was only celebrating his success. But the internet was unforgiving. Overnight, she became a trending topic for all the wrong reasons. For Kelly, it was another painful reminder that no matter her intentions, she was always one comment, one misstep, one rumor away from backlash. The pressure to maintain her image, to defend her choices, to live under constant scrutiny was unrelenting. And still, the rumors about Jay-Z persisted. They weren't just whispers anymore. They were dissected on podcasts, debated in forums, and dragged through headlines. Some fans dismissed them entirely, calling them disrespectful to both Kelly and Beyoncé. But others refused to let go. They clung to the theory like it was a puzzle waiting to be solved. Every photo, every public interaction treated as a clue. And then came the moment that reignited everything. Jay-Z's appearance at the Harder. They Fall premiere in Los Angeles. Cameras captured the exact second he spotted Kelly in the crowd. At first, his expression seemed blank, almost distant, as if he hadn't recognized her. But then, suddenly, his demeanor shifted. He lit up. His smile widened. His energy changed, and fans couldn't stop analyzing it. Was it just an old friend's warmth? Or was there something more lingering beneath the surface? Social media lit up with slowed-down clips, screen grabs, and theories. For Kelly, it was the nightmare she couldn't escape. But while her name was dragged through endless speculation, another story was unfolding in the background, one that painted Jay-Z himself in an even more complicated light. A young man named Rowland had been fighting for years to prove that Jay-Z was his biological father. His case, filled with lawsuits, legal blockades, and heartbreaking claims, had been circling courts for over a decade. He insisted his mother had a relationship with Jay-Z when she was just 16. And despite repeated attempts, Jay-Z never agreed to a DNA test. The case was dismissed, reopened, dismissed again, and lingered in a cycle of silence and speculation. For many fans, the resurfacing of Rowland's claims made the rumors about Kelly feel less far-fetched. If Jay-Z had avoided one paternity scandal, could there be others? The questions multiplied, the trust fractured, and once again, Kelly found herself caught in a narrative she never asked to be part of. But the most haunting part of her story wasn't the rumors. It was the song that nearly destroyed her. Because behind the studio glass, Kelly Rowland wasn't just recording music. She was reliving the darkest moments of her life. And what happened next in that booth would prove just how much pain she had been hiding all along. Inside the recording booth, the lights were dim, and the glass separating Kelly from her producers felt like a wall she wasn't sure she could break through. The song Dirty Laundry was supposed to be cathartic. Instead, it became a battlefield. Each line she sang ripped open old wounds she thought had healed. She broke down in tears over and over again, unable to get through the verses without choking on the memories. Abuse, betrayal, jealousy, the suffocating shadow of Beyoncé's meteoric rise. It wasn't just music. It was her diary, spoken aloud for the world to hear. Kelly admitted later that she had to leave the room when her label first played the track for executives. She couldn't sit there, couldn't watch their faces as they listened to her most intimate scars wrapped in melody. For days, she fought with herself to push past the pain long enough to finish the track, to turn something so private into something universal. And when she finally did, her voice wasn't polished or perfect. It was raw, shaky, honest. The pain was still there, etched into every syllable. Critics hailed Dirty Laundry as her bravest moment. The Los Angeles Times called it a turning point, a declaration that Kelly was stepping out of Beyoncé's shadow at last. Essence said it was a message to women everywhere that survival was possible, even after years of silence. But while fans and journalists praised her vulnerability, Kelly herself was left drained. Recording that song didn't just open old wounds. It forced her to confront the reality that her darkest secrets were now permanent, immortalized in a track the world could replay endlessly. And still, even as the song resonated, another story grew in the background. Whispers that Kelly's openness about jealousy, abuse, and trauma were just the tip of the iceberg, that there were other chapters she couldn't or wouldn't share. Some began revisiting old interviews, pointing to her silences, her pauses, her sudden changes of expression when certain names came up. They wanted answers she wasn't ready to give. And once again, Jay-Z's name surfaced. Online, the debate grew louder. Fans compared Kelly's son Titan not just to Jay-Z, but to Beyoncé's daughter Blue Ivy. Side by side, photos circulated with captions that read like accusations. How can anyone not see it? He looks more like Jay-Z than his own dad. Kelly stayed quiet, refusing to fuel the fire. But silence didn't kill the rumor, it fed it. At the same time, Jay-Z's legal entanglements with Rymir Satterthwaite refused to go away. Court filings revealed just how far the young man and his godmother had gone to prove the connection. They claimed judges in New Jersey had worked with Jay-Z's team to block the case, that legal documents had mysteriously vanished, that evidence had been buried. They even alleged Jay-Z's lawyers placed illegal liens on their property to force them into silence. Whether true or not, the narrative was damning. The image of Jay-Z as untouchable, a man whose money and influence could make inconvenient problems disappear, only added fuel to the theories about Kelly. And then came an even darker turn. Rymir's mother, Wanda, passed away before she could see the case resolved. She had always insisted her relationship with Jay-Z was real, that her son deserved the truth. But she died without that closure, leaving Rymir to carry the weight alone. Some insiders whispered that her death itself was suspicious, that it came at a moment too convenient to those who wanted the case buried. It was speculation, yes, but in the world of rumor and reputation, speculation was enough. For Kelly, these echoes were impossible to ignore. She had spent years carving out her own legacy, proving herself as more than Beyoncé's backup, as more than just a voice on harmonies. She had hosted shows, acted in films, and built a career that stood on its own. But the industry and the public wouldn't let her escape the shadows of the people around her. Every time she tried to shine, the questions returned. About Beyoncé, about Jay-Z, about who she really was when the cameras stopped rolling. And then, another revelation resurfaced, one from the earliest days of Destiny's Child, hidden behind rehearsed smiles and carefully managed appearances. Matthew Knowles' claim about harassment on tour wasn't just about protecting the girls in that moment. It was a glimpse into how vulnerable they had been all along. Teenagers thrust into an adult world of contracts, tours, and predatory behavior, expected to smile through it all. Kelly had once said she still talks to the part of her brain that never fully healed. Maybe this was why. The weight of it all, the rumors, the comparisons, the scars, left fans wondering how Kelly kept going, how she smiled on red carpets, laughed in interviews, posted polished photos on Instagram. But beneath that surface was a woman who had been forced to survive in silence, whose story was always told in fragments, never whole. And just when the noise seemed unbearable, when the shadows of her past threatened to drown out her present, something happened that no one could have predicted. A scandal that didn't just drag her name back into headlines, it pulled Beyoncé and Michelle Williams into. And this time, it wasn't about music. It was about betrayal. The whispers began with Michelle Williams. Known as the quiet one in Destiny's Child, Michelle had always stayed out of drama, her image clean compared to the high-profile chaos surrounding Beyoncé and Kelly. But in 2023, Michelle found herself caught in a storm she didn't start. A leaked court document tied her name, along with Kelly's, to none other than Sean Diddy Combs. The same Diddy now facing lawsuits, federal investigations, and explosive accusations of trafficking, abuse, and secret dealings that had the music industry on edge. The filings suggested Diddy wasn't just an industry mentor to Beyoncé's circle. He had closer ties to members of Destiny's Child than the public ever knew. Suddenly, Michelle and Kelly were trending, not for music or reunions, but for alleged connections to the darkest side of hip-hop power. Fans asked, had they been protected all these years? Or were they being used as pawns in games played by men like Jay-Z, Diddy, and Matthew Knowles? For Kelly, the timing couldn't have been worse. Just as she was pushing dirty laundry into the rearview mirror, the internet revived every rumor about Jay-Z being Titan's father. Every time Diddy's name appeared in a headline, Kelly's trended alongside it. Conspiracy threads connected dots between Destiny's Child, Jay-Z's Roc Nation empire, and Diddy's alleged network. They called it the Triangle of Silence: Beyoncé in the spotlight, Jay-Z pulling strings, and Kelly and Michelle as the quiet shadows carrying secrets too heavy to name. And then came the betrayal. A former associate claimed Kelly had once confided about her struggles directly to Beyoncé, only to feel her words dismissed. According to this insider, Beyoncé's focus was always on the brand, the perfection, the empire. There wasn't room for Kelly's pain in that narrative. The supposed sisterhood that fans idolized, the DC3 bond, may not have been as unbreakable as it seemed. Online, fans split into camps. Some defended Beyoncé fiercely, insisting she had always supported Kelly. Others pointed to interviews where Kelly seemed hesitant, where her eyes told a different story than her smile. Clips resurfaced of moments where Beyoncé spoke over her, or where Kelly seemed unsure whether to speak at all. TikTok accounts dedicated to reading body language gained millions of views analyzing old Destiny's Child footage. And in the background, the Diddy cases only grew darker. Federal raids on his properties revealed hidden rooms and encrypted files. Whistleblowers claimed his parties were more than just parties, that they were recruiting grounds, grooming sessions, power plays designed to entrap. And if his empire crumbled, many feared it would take others down with it. Names whispered in sealed depositions could very well include the most unexpected people. That's when fans started asking a chilling question: was Kelly's silence really about privacy or protection? Did she stay quiet because she wanted to, or because she had to? By late 2023, YouTube channels, Twitter threads, and podcasts were buzzing with one theme: what does Kelly Rowland know? Some believed she carried the industry's darkest secrets, from Jay-Z's alleged hidden children to Diddy's trafficking network. Others thought she was a victim herself, caught in a web of men more powerful than her. And some, the most cynical of all, suggested she wasn't just a bystander, that she had benefited from the same system now being exposed. The betrayal, the rumors, the unanswered questions, they all pointed to one truth. Kelly Rowland's story was far bigger, far darker, and far more dangerous than anyone imagined. And as the scandals closed in, fans wondered, would Kelly finally break her silence? Or would she remain the quiet soldier of Destiny's Child, holding the secrets of an empire that the world was only beginning to see unravel? By 2024, the cracks in hip-hop's untouchable empires were undeniable. Diddy, once celebrated as a mogul, was now under federal investigation, facing allegations that went far beyond industry gossip. Raids on his mansions uncovered shocking evidence. Former associates turned witnesses, painting a picture of a man who had built an empire not just on music, but on control, fear, and exploitation. And every time a new revelation dropped, the question resurfaced: who else knew? Who else was involved? Jay-Z, too, faced mounting pressure. The Rymir Satterthwaite case refused to disappear. Despite years of legal maneuvers, the story wouldn't die. Independent journalists dug deeper, exposing inconsistencies, missing paperwork, and allegations of judicial corruption. The narrative of Jay-Z, as a powerful man who could silence anyone, began to fracture his carefully crafted image. And that fracture pointed back, once again, to Kelly Rowland. Because for years, Kelly's silence had been her armor. When Dirty Laundry dropped, fans thought they were finally seeing the real Kelly, the pain, the scars, the truth. But now, in the wake of Diddy's collapse and Jay-Z's resurfacing scandals, silence looked different. It didn't look like protection. It looked like fear. And then came the most explosive moment yet. A leaked list of names connected to Diddy's parties and private dealings began circulating online. Some names were predictable, others were shocking. Among them, Kelly Rowland, not accused directly of crimes, but listed as someone who had been present, who had seen more than she let on. The internet erupted. TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube lit up with speculation. Did Kelly witness the darker side of the industry and choose to look away? Was she another victim in a system that chewed people up and spit them out? Or had she stayed silent all these years because she knew speaking would destroy everything, not just her career, but her safety? Meanwhile, Michelle Williams, usually silent, usually private, suddenly became emotional during a live podcast interview. Asked about loyalty, she broke down in tears, saying, "Sometimes the ones you trust the most, they don't protect you, they protect the brand." She didn't name names. She didn't have to. Fans connected the dots immediately. The sisterhood of Destiny's Child, once idolized, was now being dissected as a story of survival, betrayal, and silence. And at the center of it all, Kelly Rowland, the woman who once sang about airing out her pain, was now the one the world begged to speak again, to answer the questions about Jay-Z, about Titan, about Diddy, about Beyoncé, about what really happened behind the closed doors of the industry's most powerful rooms. But Kelly didn't answer. She stayed quiet, posting smiling family photos on Instagram, attending red carpets, performing when booked, but never addressing the storm. And maybe that silence is the answer. Maybe it's not about denial or guilt, but about survival. In an industry where speaking the wrong truth can end careers. Or worse, maybe, Kelly has chosen the only path she can. But fans can't stop wondering, if Kelly Rowland ever decides to tell everything, would the music industry even survive the fallout?